West Coast. I am Jessica Marrufo from West Coast Newsroom, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Crystal Sadler.
And today we will be discussing the vulnerable populations that are affected by cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is the use of electronic communication to bully or harass a person, typically by sending messages of intimidating or threatening nature. While cyberbullying can occur to any person of any age on social media sites, it is most prevalent among adolescents that are connected to social media sites such as Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. While there are no specific risk factors that put children or adolescents at risk for cyberbullying, the fact that children are constantly connected online alone puts them at a high risk for this type of bullying. Our resources show that 95% of adolescents between the ages of 12 and 17 are connected to the internet, while 85% of them are social media site users. When discussing population demographics among this population, those that experience cyberbullying the most are between the ages of 12 and 17, with girls being more likely to be a victim of cyberbullying than boys. Overall, our resources show that 36% of girls have reported being bullied online, and 26% of boys have reported this happening to them. Those within the LGBTQ community have also expressed that members within this specific community have experienced cyberbullying at some point. While this problem is mostly popular among adolescents, some studies have shown that cyberbullying also goes on amongst adults. In the United States, 40% of adults have personally experienced some form of online harassment, and 75% of them have witnessed it on their social media sites. In conclusion, it is apparent that cyberbullying does not only affect one population or culture in particular. In 2018, statistics show that in the United States alone, an estimated 244 million people are currently using some form of social media platform. Therefore, close to 80% of the United States population is at higher risk for experiencing some form of cyberbullying while online. So now we're going to go over to Crystal, and she's going to be discussing some of the background and relevant history related to cyberbullying.
Thank you, Jessica. Cyberbullying began occurring when traditional bullying forced its way into the internet in the 1990s when personal computers became more affordable and accessible to the general population. The internet was an anonymous platform which gave people the ability to harass or intimidate others without any repercussion. After the Columbine shooting in 1999, many states began to pass anti-bullying laws. However, not all of these included cyberbullying as an offense. Cyberbullying was brought to the public's attention after online harassment resulted in multiple teen suicides. It's so sad.
It's so sad.
This act of online harassment hit an all-time high in the mid-2000s when smartphones became popular due to the easy access of text messaging.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. People were sending photos, and social media platforms began readily available from people's phones. Yes. Back to you, Jessica.
Thank you. Cyberbullying is a concern within public health because of the negative emotional and physical effects that it can have on someone. Children and adolescents that have experienced any type of bullying, whether it's online or at school, are more likely to experience depression and anxiety, as well as suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Dealing with these mental issues can lead to further issues like substance abuse, which can have a big impact on someone's physical health. Along with anxiety and depression, bullying can cause a high level of stress, which can result in sleep disorders and gastrointestinal problems.
So true.
It's also seen that those that bully people online also experience negative effects like depression and suicidal thoughts and behaviors.
Absolutely.
Those that harass people online may be punished with suspension or expulsion from school, which puts them at a risk for lower academic achievement and less opportunities as an adult.
Absolutely, Jessica. That's so true.
So now we're going to go over to Crystal, and she's going to talk about some statistics that are specific with cyberbullying within the United States and California specifically.
Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
In 2019, 33.8% of middle and high school students were victims of cyberbullying within the United States. Statistics have shown that 42% of U.S. students experienced cyberbullying on Instagram, 37% on Facebook, 31% on Snapchat, and 10% on YouTube, and 9% on Twitter.
Wow, Instagram is up there.
Yes, absolutely. The top state that experiences the most cyberbullying within the United States is Nevada, with California being the 7th top state for experiencing cyberbullying. The state that experiences the least amount of cyberbullying is Wisconsin, believe it or not. Yeah. California has laws in place against cyberbullying in which an individual can be charged with a misdemeanor, meaning that they can face up to 1 year in jail or be charged with a fine of thousands of dollars or possibly both, depending on the circumstances.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A person can be faced with this charge if they electronically post or transmit any personal identifying data of another person or any harassing messages about another person within the intent to cause the other person to reasonably fear for his or her safety.
That's good though.
Yeah.
That's good.
Now back to you, Jessica.
Thanks.
Yes, come in.
Oh, hi, Blue. Sorry to interrupt your studying. I just was wondering if you had any time to answer a few questions about cyberbullying.
Well, of course, you came in at just a convenient time.
Oh, yeah, look,
I
you're
was just
studying
studying
public
it.
health.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yes. How can I help
Okay,
you?
so, do you by any chance know any psychosocial concerns or any norms of this population that's affected by cyberbullying?
That's an interesting question. Well, cyberbullying has been related to adolescence, decreased levels of self-esteem, self-efficacy, pro-social behavior, perceived sense of belonging, and safety at school. Cyberbullying has also been associated with adolescents' negative emotions such as anger, sadness, frustration, fear, and embarrassment. In addition, disruptions in relationship have also been associated with cyberbullying among youth, including lower levels of empathy, increased levels of depression, weaker emotional bonds with caregivers, lower parental monitoring, and increased use of punitive discipline. Is that all the questions you wanted? Or is
Oh, I
there
have a
other
few more.
questions?
One more.
Okay.
So, do you by any chance know any economic concerns of this population, including income levels, education levels, and occupations?
Well, because most cyberbullying occurs outside school, it is uncertain whether a similar relationship exists for cyberbullying. A few studies have linked cyberbullying to negative school experiences, such as lower academic performance and negative perceptions of school climate. Although these studies suggest that cyberbullying may be a contributing factor, more research is needed to determine the extent to which the school attachment and performance are related to cyberbullying experiences. Duke University and the University of Warwick conducted a study that followed 14,000 people and discovered that there is a correlation between bullying and economic issues. Those who have been bullied as children are 12% more likely to be in poverty as adults than those never affected by bullying.
Oh, wow.
Individuals lose the drive to push themselves to do better and perform jobs to their greatest potential. Because of this, 13% will end up being fired and having financial problems. Companies lose money for this, since it costs nearly $3,500 to replace one employee making $8 per hour. That's including training, recruiting, and hiring. Any further questions?
Yes. Okay. So, do you by any chance know any specific health concerns of this population that's affected by cyberbullying?
Well, funny you should ask, because a study also found a relationship between bullying and health difficulties. When someone is bullied, it usually leaves an emotional scar, resulting in depression. Typically, antidepressants cost $170 per year without insurance. That can put a damper on one's wallet. When one is upset about something, their food intake often changes as well. Sometimes the sadness could cause them to eat less food, which leads to anorexia. Other times they can binge, causing obesity. Treatments for obesity can cost about $1,700 per year. Furthermore, kids who are involved in bullying are more likely than others to report health problems such as headaches, backaches, stomach pain, sleep problems, poor appetite, and bedwetting.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, play.
Okay.
So, since you know all these health concerns about this population, do you know any specific risk factors that puts a adolescent or child at risk for experiencing cyberbullying?
Well, bullying can happen anywhere. Cities, suburbs, rural towns, depending on the environment, some groups such as lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, or questioning youth with disabilities, or socially isolated youth may be at increased risk of being bullied. Generally, children who are bullied have one or more of the following risk factors. They're perceived as different from their peers, such as being overweight or underweight. They have glasses. They might seem uncool. Another risk factor could be they're seen as weak or unable to defend themselves. They can seem depressed, anxious, or have low self-esteem. And yet another risk factor would be that they're perceived as less popular than others, and they have very few friends.
Okay. So I see here on the board that you have primary, secondary, and tertiary methods. Would you by any chance know any prevention control methods related to cyberbullying on this topic?
Well, funny you should ask. The primary treatment or intervention would be officials raising awareness about bullying and having them share information on an appropriate and effective response via seminars and class teachings. A secondary intervention involves screening questions during wellness exams and patient visits to assess the nature of the child or adolescent's interactions with peers and possible exposure to bullying. This can involve routinely monitoring for and intervening quickly when risk factors are evident for children who bully and those who are bullied, paying particular attention to populations that might be at higher risks, such as LGBT and youth with disabilities. Tertiary interventions involve bullying, counseling. A victim can identify the most troubling memories from the abuse and learn new ways to move on from the trauma. Many counselors work with patients every day to boost their confidence and move past their negative experiences.
Thank you so much, Blue, for
No
participating
problem.
in our interview. Now we're going to go back to the newsroom. So now we're back in the newsroom, and we have Chelsea, which is a public health nurse.
Hello.
And we're going to be asking her some questions about cyberbullying. So can you tell us the role of the public health nurse in caring for this vulnerable population?
So, public health nurses can identify cyberbullying, educate the community, and advocate for people being threatened. A public health nurse will be involved with schools and talking to the children. They can monitor for depression and anxiety. They can screen for substance abuse, sleep disorders, and suicidal ideations, along with monitoring social media websites for communication threads on bullying. The nurse can look for children being addicted to their phones and assess for children being withdrawn or having a lack of interest in people and activities. Public health nurses need to build rapport and to have a trusting relationship with people, mainly in schools, to be able to have open communication with any problems or concerns on cyberbullying. The nurse will want to be caring and show support and empathy to people and their families. The nurse can also have activities to help with self-reflection and look at the thoughts and feelings of others. To help identify people who are being cyberbullied, a public health nurse can have open group discussions with community leaders, businesses, parent groups, schools, and churches. That's it.
So now can you tell us a little bit about the core functions of public health and how they apply to the care of this population?
Yes, I can. So the core functions of public health nurse is known as APA. APA is assessment, policy development, and assurance. So for assessment, we want to collect data on the population and to monitor the health status. The nurse would want to identify the problem or opportunity to be had. An example is the increased amount of kids committing suicide due to cyberbullying. Then we have policy development. For policy development, we want to develop policies and programs to support the health of this population. An example would be for students to be put on an action plan, suspended or expelled when being a cyberbully. Then we have assurance. We want to make resources available and have a competent workforce. We want to have signs to promote anti-bullying along with school meetings, and teachers can also take an online course to give them more knowledge on cyberbullying.
Fantastic. So now can you give us a little bit of information on facilities or agencies that deliver services to this population and how accessible they are for this community?
Yeah, so with cyberbullying, there's no local agencies when it comes to it because it's one of the newer vulnerable populations, but there are a lot of online resources that can be used to help aid with this problem. The first resource that I really like is stompoutbullying.gov. The goal of this website is to end hate and change the culture. The website is great for people between the ages of 13 to 24 to get help on a help chat line when feeling stressed, depressed, and help make healthy decisions. The hours for the helpline are between 6 p.m. and 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The call is free and confidential. The website also has a place for parents and educators to gather information on cyberbullying. People can buy merchandise as part of the See Me campaign to help change the culture. The idea of this is that we are all different and people need to honor differences and respect each other's backgrounds. The campaign wants to change the way the culture thinks and acts. At the end of the day, we are all people and we should treat people the way we want to be treated. This website is all about respect for each other. The next online website I found was stopbullying.gov. This website is useful on prevention methods, how to get help, the facts about bullying, media guidelines, and resources you can use about bullying. What I really like about this website is that they have a training course put on by the CDC that is used to help prevent bullying. Anyone can, it's pretty cool. Anyone could take this course, but it would be really useful for people who work with children to have a better understanding of the topic. This training session will take a public health approach on bullying prevention. This activity also gives 1.5 hours continuing education credit to nurses. The next website that I really enjoyed was prevent.california. And this site is cool because it not only has information on what cyberbullying is and ways to prevent it, it also has state legislation and laws on cyberbullying. It has ideas of action plans used for children that are bullying and a live person you could talk to if you have any questions on the topic. They also offer books and videos someone can use to learn ways to prevent cyberbullying. The site has ideas of healthy relationships, how parents can help understand cyberbullying, and how to deal with it along with preventions for the schools to use.
So can you, in your opinion, give the audience a little bit of information about additional resources that you feel that are needed within this population?
Yeah, so a very important resource would be family support. It is very important when needing help with cyberbullying. Getting the parents involved will help benefit the child. School support needs to happen because school seems to be relaxed on the topic, most likely because it is still a newer, vulnerable population. Getting the school on board with monitoring for cyberbullying and following through with actions to these bullies can help prevent the situation from occurring. There needs to be local facilities or support groups that people struggling with cyberbullying can go to. Free counseling should also be available to these people where they can have a safe place and someone trusting to talk to.
I definitely agree. Thank you so much for this information that you've given us and my audience. Now we're going to head back to the newsroom with Crystal to give us a current event that's happening with this situation.
Thank you for having me.
So now we're back in the newsroom with Crystal, and she's going to be giving us information on a current event that is happening in the United States related to cyberbullying.
Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, a tragic event that took place recently in the Texas community is where a senior committed suicide by shooting herself in front of her family after years of cyberbullying.
Oh my gosh.
Just tragic. 18-year-old Brandy Vela had been the victim of cyberbullying by her ex-boyfriend Andres Villagomez and his current girlfriend Corinthia Romero.
Oh no.
According to Brandy's sister, she was a victim of school bullies who mocked her about her weight using an untraceable app. Yeah. They even created a fake web page about Brandy that included pictures of her. They lied about her age. They wrote comments of Brandy suggesting that she would have sex with anyone, listed her phone number, and they also put pictures of her on a dating site.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Now, Andres Villagomez and his girlfriend Corinthia Romero was arrested, and she has been charged, and they have been charged on multiple counts, and they're awaiting trial at this moment.
That's good though.
Yeah, absolutely. Tragic. Yeah. And Jessica, here's a quick clip for us to watch regarding the current event situation that I reported on.
Oh, perfect. Let's take a look at that.
2 people have been arrested in the case of a teen who committed suicide. According to police, Brandy Vela tragically took her own life after enduring several months of relentless cyberbullying, stalking, and harassment. Those arrests were made by Texas City Police. Channel 2's Robert Arnold is in Texas City. And Robert, you just spoke to Brandy's father.
We did, and he is overjoyed that these charges have been filed. Now, as you had mentioned, Brandy committed suicide. That was in November. A Galveston County grand jury just handed down indictments against 2 people today, and the Texas City Police Department, along with U.S. Marshals, went to Galveston and arrested those 2 people. I just finished reading those charging instruments, and what they spell out is that a man by the name of Andres Villagomez has been charged with publishing intimate material. A woman by the name of Corinthia Romero has been charged with harassment and impersonating somebody online. What we do know from police is that Villagomez had previously dated Brandy Vela, and according to those charging instruments, Villagomez put nude photos of Vela online. Then those same those same court records say that Romero then started sending a lot of text messages, a lot of phone calls, harassing Vela. Unfortunately, though, the harassment and the bullying was too much for her, and Vela took her own life, as we mentioned, in November. We just left her father's house, and this is what he had to say when he found out about these criminal charges.
I was just so ecstatic, started screaming, jumping around. I could barely contain myself. It's not justice, but I think it's the first step to justice, but we're definitely on the right path.
Wow, that is just truly tragic.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Crystal, in your opinion, how do you think this event affected the population within the community that this occurred?
Yeah, well, cyberbullying, it does have lifelong effects on the community, including the person that was bullied, their family, and those around them. Brandy was a prime example of how detrimental cyberbullying can be and the consequences it can lead to. So after the loss of this young life of Brandy, the community was devastated. They were angry and confused, and many of them just didn't know what to do. The community, they had a vigil trying to express their anger and sadness and their fear, because it can happen to anyone.
It truly can.
Absolutely.
So, Crystal, what are your personal opinions or thoughts that should be done to address this issue within the community?
Well, Jessica, I would say that some ways to address cyberbullying, in my opinion, can include creating some support groups for the person that was bullied and their family, you know, what I think is extremely important. Also, for schools out there, having a no tolerance policy against bullying.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. Education in the community about cyberbullying and the effects that it has on the individuals. I think that's extremely important. Discussion on how to report cyberbullying, because I think just some people just don't know what to do when they encounter that. Definitely some strict legal precaution and maximum hard sentences, in my opinion, to possibly deter people from cyberbullying and future incidents.
So how do you think that we as a community could go upstream and prevent this issue from happening in the future?
Great question, Jessica. I think that due to the increase in technology, everyone in the community should be aware and taught about the importance of protecting themselves in the cyber world. Things like keeping your password private, being mindful of the things you post online, monitoring your friends list, and also your privacy settings.
Most definitely, that's very important.
Regularly. Some suggestions to prevent this from happening was mentioned by actually Brandy's father when he had an interview with CNN, and he's actually trying to persuade state lawmakers to increase restrictions on social media, as well as making it harder for cyber bullies to stay anonymous. Providing specialized counseling and mental health support at schools for victims like his daughter.
I agree, that'll make a big difference. Now that is the conclusion of our newscast today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Jessica Marrufo.
And I'm Crystal Sadler.
And make sure West Coast students stay classy.
Why is this being so difficult to me?